Greetings, salutations. Welcome to this midday power surge, Friday, January 28th, 2022. This is your spiritual oasis on this pilgrim journey. Safe to Serve International, first-time viewers, welcome one, welcome all to this midday power surge. Now, brothers and sisters, we have been preparing for Sabbath worship on tomorrow, and as a result, we have been extremely busy. And also, tomorrow is going to be a baptismal service, and today I'm going to kindly ask you to keep the Sabbath preparation in your prayers, as well as to keep the candidates in your prayers as well. All right, friends, let's get right into this. I want to say at the very onset, happy Sabbath to those of you in other parts of the world. And when the sun sets here on the East Coast, I want to say again, happy Sabbath, Safe to Serve International, and also the first-time viewers, Sabbath-keeping individuals. My friends, the seventh day is still the Sabbath, and remember, Jesus is coming soon. And beloved, we have to be found ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready. My friends, two things are trending right now. And by the way, before I deal with these things that are trending, I want to say that today, I want to make this soliloquy, as it were, this presentation, as succinct as possible. So much more left to get done. And friends, the sun is about to set. Let's get right into this. Beloved, what's trending, Pastor? There it is. Number one, two things. Number one, the SCOTUS ruling on Biden's pestilence 19 inoculation mandate. All right, that's the first thing that's still trending. Number two, are you ready for this, my friends? The second thing that's trending, specifically among the SDA community, is Pastor Conrad Vine's presentation on Seventh-day Adventists inoculation statement printed and published by the ADCOM group. Now, brothers and sisters, with that in mind, the great question is, please, friend, please watch this. What are the correlations here? What does OHSA and the SDA ADCOM group have in common? That's the great question, friends. What do they have in common? The simple answer is they have no authority. Please note that. They have no authority. And by the way, friends, I want to be very clear here. Even if the policies from OHSA had the authority and the policies from the SDA ADCOM has authority based on the channels of the Constitution and the general governance of the bodies, because the policies are apostasies, we today ought to obey God rather than men. We ought to obey God rather than apostate church policies. We ought to obey God rather than men, and even the apostate policies from state leaders. Does that make sense, my friends? What do they have in common is the question. Now notice here, friends. Watch carefully. Watch carefully. I'm going to reveal the similarities between Biden administrations and the SDA leaders' policy. Yes, friends, OHSA, that's number one. OHSA, which stands for Occupational Safety and Health Act, as well as the SDA ADCOM group policy. Friends, number one, please, friends, I'm going to lay this out in 10 principles. 10 principles and be as succinct as possible. I won't be able to elaborate on every single point. Number one, there it is, my friends, which is the obvious. The Biden administration enacted an inoculation mandate for businesses, companies with over 100 employees. All right, and now we come. The Seventh-day Adventist leaders told their members to submit to the Pestilence 19 inoculation mandate. All right, friends, there it is. Submit. All right, number 2. Are you ready for this, my friends? Number 2, we have the Biden administration gave OHSA the permission to roll out the Pestilence 19 mandate and to oversee its implementation. It's right there, brothers and sisters. All right. Likewise, the SDA leaders established an ADCOM group to print and publish a statement on inoculation for the World Church members to follow. And that is number 2. Are you seeing the correlations? All right, friends, let us move on now to point number 3. Are you ready for this, my friends? Point number 3. In point number 3, SCOTUS ruled that OHSA doesn't have the authority according to the Constitution. Therefore, the mandate from the federal government is null and void. It is invalid. It's right there, my friends, the headline. It is invalid, has no authority. And the word authority is there underlined. Now, Pastor Conrad Vine stated that the printed and published statement, brothers and sisters, from the General Conference, from specifically the ADCOM group, has no authority. Therefore, the policy regarding inoculation and Babylon's magic bullet has no authority. It is null. It is void. It is invalid. Now, I touched on this several days ago. I'm simply going to have you now hear the statement from Pastor Vine himself. And by the way, I'll post a link below. And of course, it's trending. Take a listen.
But the key point is, when you look through the General Conference working policy, the ADCOM has delegated authority and power from the worldwide membership via our representative governance model to act in administrative matters pertaining to the internal operations of the GC and of GC employees. We can agree on that. But the key point is this: the ADCOM does not have the authority anywhere given to it to determine theological or spiritual matters for all members worldwide from 2015 until Jesus comes again. It simply does not have that authority. It's a fundamental point. Now, we all assume that they do have the authority because they made the statement, but I'm here to say to you today, after many years of working administration, the ADCOM does not have that delegated authority.
And friends, here comes clip number 2. He's going to continue on the same trend of thought. Listen.
It's a fundamental point. Now, we all assume that they do have the authority because they made the statement, but I'm here to say to you today, after many years of working administration, the ADCOM does not have that delegated authority. Therefore, the statement is invalid. If those issuing the statement did not have the authority to issue the statement, which is the foundation of the entire church's position on vaccinations, this statement needs to be revoked.
All right. Let's go on. Let's move on to point number 4, making the similarities between OHSA and SDA ADCOM. Point number 4, after the SCOTUS ruling, here comes President Biden, his administration spokesperson, still appealing to companies, businesses, corporations to implement the Pestilence 19 inoculation mandate. Take a look, brothers and sisters. There it is. Listen.
How How much of a blow is this to the administration's pandemic response plan, that the employer mandate part of the testing or vaccination mandate halted, and how will that affect the course of the pandemic?
Sure. Well, I know there'll be the statement from the president that should be coming into your inboxes any moment now.
Clip 2.
The Supreme Court's decision on the OHSA mandate essentially means that in this pandemic, it is up to individual employers to determine whether their workplaces will be safe for employees and whether their businesses will be safe for consumers. So President Biden, you'll see this in his statement, will be calling on and will continue to call on businesses to immediately join those who have already stepped up, including 1/3 of Fortune 100 companies, to institute vaccination requirements to protect their workers, customers, and communities. We have to keep working together.
So, friends, that was the side of the government, federal government, and OHSA. Now let's take a look at the church's response after the SCOTUS ruling. This was a panel discussion, even a presentation with general conference leaders. In this first clip, you'll see the PARL director stating the church will not change its stance, number one, and number two, it is simply going to implement what it has already voted. Once I play this, I'm going to share with you a biblical implication, a biblical significance. Take a look. Diop.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church, the Department of Health and the Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department have supported and made it clear that the health crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic is a public health issue, not one of religious liberty. Despite this clear stance and the encouragement to get vaccinated, some church members have insisted by various means that the church should change its stance. Some request letters of exemption, while being sensitive, of course, to the predicament and hardship of those who choose not to be vaccinated. The church has chosen not to issue exemption letters based on the prudence of not impinging upon the realm of state authority. The church can only promote actually what it officially votes.
So why not simply change the protocol? Why not simply gather all the delegates and have another vote? No, they want to simply keep their stance because this policy was voted previously. Now here's my simple point. Beloved, based on my understanding, this present policy that's creating the controversy came to being in 2015. Now surely in 2015, there was no pestilence 19 pandemic crisis. So they voted a general policy. And here comes pestilence 19, de-inoculation, the draconian policies. And instead of the leaders of the SDA church, worldwide church, making qualifications, even convening and having another vote so they can publish something more biblical, what have they done? They simply said, what we voted in 2015 applies to the pestilence 19 crisis. Number one, they really believe that the pestilence 19 magic bullet, Babylon's elixir, today is the same as the past inoculations. That is not the case, brothers and sisters. Studies have confirmed that it is not the case. Instead of saying, now let us renege, apologize, recant on what has been voted and what we're telling the members to do. No, they have dug in with their heels. We will stay firm to this voted policy. We don't want to go against the government policies, but we would rather trample upon our own members. That is draconian, to say the least. My mind went to the time of Herodias, and her daughter Salome, and how John the Baptist was beheaded. Do you know, if you read Mark's account in Mark chapter 6, you can start from verse number verse number 16 all the way down to verse number 30 of Mark chapter 6. Read that account. But kindly focus on verse number 26. The Bible says, and the king Herod, the king, was exceeding sorry, yet for his oath's sake, a vow, for his vow's sake. Can we say for the voted policy's sake? For the oath's sake, and for their sakes, which sat with him, he would not reject her. He knew simply that he made a vow to Salome. Whatever you want, I'll give it, even to, I believe, half of my kingdom in verse 23. But that did not include cutting off John's head. So when this present crisis came, Herod realized that he was in a bind, a rock and a hard place. And what did he choose to do? Go along with the oath, the vow, to pacify men in his council, to pacify Salome, to pacify, appease her mother. The church today, SDA leaders, are doing the very same thing as did Herod, because of the oath's sake, the vow, and those around him. You see, friends, pride goeth before a fall. Look at what this goes on to say. No wonder this presenter Diop said the following. This is a crisis. Listen.
Now, the question of religious freedom or freedom from logic. Of course, it is not helpful to question people's motivations. However, it has been reported that experts who have studied the issue have come to the same conclusion. I quote, almost everyone who claims a religious exemption is using it as a cover for secular concerns, like fear of side effects or a general distrust of government. Donald Rubenstein writes.
All right, there it is. And now listen to another panelist responding to the same, that most people who use such exceptions, they are not sincere. Listen to this.
This would allow employees to request religious accommodations to vaccinations if the objection is based on a sincerely held religious belief. But as was stated in the earlier presentation, a religious belief does not protect personal non-religious beliefs such as social concerns, political concerns, economic views, or personal preferences regarding the safety of or efficacy of the vaccination.
Maybe Jennifer Woods need to go back and read what the Supreme Court says regarding religious exemptions. Take a look at that, brothers and sisters. Now notice, here comes Peter Landless, simply stating, we are encouraging the members still to go ahead and receive the pestilence 19 panacea, again, after the SCOTUS ruling.
And as we witness the global magnitude of the pandemic, the deaths, the disability, and the long-term COVID-19 effects that are emerging in all grey age groups, we are encouraging our members to consider responsible immunization and the promotion and facilitation of the development of what is commonly termed herd immunity. Notice, we're encouraging, we're not mandating it as a church.
All right, listen to this now. All right, listen, watch.
Now, on the issue of the government's entitlement to ask citizens to be vaccinated, it may be worth remembering the provision that I just mentioned of the ICCPR to protect public safety. Public health matters can be monitored by governments to prevent more death, as in the case of COVID-19. Obviously.
So how will the government know who has and who has not received Caesar's cure-all? Your papers, please. That's what it is, my friend. Your papers, please. Move on from that. And now let us simply move on to point number 5 as we're making this juxtaposition. All right, my friends, the Biden administration must have known that OHSA doesn't have the authority. Think about that, my friends. The Biden administration should have attorneys, counsels, men and women, intelligent, intellectuals, seasoned, career lawyers. I was going to say politicians, career lawyers. They did not know that this mandate didn't follow the proper channel. All right, take a look at this. Again, point number 5. Look at this, my friends. Here's the point. The General Conference, Seventh-day Adventist leaders should have also known that the ADCOM group doesn't have that authority. All right. And by the way, the Seventh-day Adventists are the actual ones who wrote their own working policy document. Did they not know this, my friends? What is God showing us here? And by the way, as I said before, even if the OHSA mandate went through the proper channels, even if the ADCOM, SDA group policy, printed, published policy on inoculation, went through the proper channels, had the authority, the mere fact, both groups have printed and published apostasies, we will say we ought to obey God rather than apostate church leaders, apostate state leaders. All right, friends, notice. Point number 6. In both cases, the main issue was what? Authority. Do you see it, my friends? In both cases, the main issue was authority. Let's pause right here on point number 6. In Revelation 13, verse number 2, the Bible brings to view authority in a negative sense. The papacy, receiving from the dragon power, seat, and great authority. What does that mean? It means go, you must go. Come, you must come. You have no freedom, no liberty of conscience. All right, no religious liberty. Do this, you must do this, or else dire consequences. Prosecution, persecution, that's popery. By the way, Matthew 8 verse 9 goes along with chapter 13 verse 2 of Revelation. Then verse 11 of Revelation 13, verse number 12, verse 15 through verse 17, the Bible tells us the United States of America, Protestant America, will form an image to popery, which means it must also have and also reflect, manifest, reveal, demonstrate the same apostate authority. It's right there, my friends. It's right in the scriptures. Does it make sense? And they will force individuals to go along, or else they won't be able to buy or sell. Many of them are going to be killed. Let's move on now. Point number 7. All right, friends. The National Sunday Law will be enacted using the right channels of government. Please know that, my friends. All right, let's go again. The National Sunday Law will be enacted. What are the right channels of government? Let's slow it down. In Revelation 13, verse number 11, speaking of Protestant America, the Bible says America will speak as a dragon. How does America speak? How does she implement laws? Through her 2 primary branches of government, that is legislative, that's Congress, and judicial, the courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court. All right, that's how a nation speaks. It's right there on the screen. That's how a nation speaks. Now notice, in connection with that now, the Bible tells us in Revelation chapter 13, verse number 14, verse number 15, that it is the people that will demand of their leaders, politicians, the enforcement of a national Sunday law to counter the various crises in America. That sounds to me, the Sunday law will follow the proper channels of getting laws enacted. Does it make sense? Look at that. Great controversy. page 592 confirms. Now watch. In point number 8, we're told, my friends, watch carefully. In point number 8, we're told that when America enforces the National Sunday Law, even though it follows the proper path, procedures of getting laws enacted and laws upheld, in God's eyes, that is against his authority. Do you see it, my friends? I hope you caught that. Does that need to be reiterated? All right. Even though America will follow the proper channels and getting a Sunday law enforced, and the Supreme Court would not say then, listen, let us stay the Sunday law. Let us suspend, terminate this Sunday law. Because it didn't follow the proper channels, it has no authority. That would not be the case as with the federal mandate pestilence 19 inoculation. Does it make sense? But in God's eyes, they have no authority to enforce a Sunday law and prosecute and persecute God's commandment-keeping people, God's seventh-day Sabbath-keeping people. It's right there, brothers and sisters. All right. It's right there. There it is, friends. So now, will they force us to bow? But what will God's people do? Like in Daniel chapter 3, they would not bow. So what will they say? They will say, we ought to obey God rather than men. Does it make sense, my friends? Okay, point number 9. Point number 9. How will Seventh-day Adventist leaders respond when the National Sunday Law is enforced? Now listen to Mr. Diop.
Now, personal conviction is not corporate responsibility.
Hold on. Again, listen.
Now, personal conviction is not corporate responsibility, but corporate responsibility in the form of an official church position, such as, for example, the absolute right to observe the Sabbath, not to work on the Sabbath, not to take exams or to go to school on the Sabbath, is supported by international law and can benefit from accommodations and exemptions. This is not the case for the choice not to be vaccinated. No international law has been promulgated against vaccination. So the overwhelming majority of national medical experts and international health experts and institutions, such as the World Health Organization, recommend vaccinations in order to save lives and prevent avoidable death.
Now, this man sounds like a politician in one sense, and not even a representative of a church body. Who is he quoting? What is he predicating this statement on? International law. So because it's an international law, the church, SDA church leaders, are going to support that international law. And if the members of the SDA church dissent on this international policy, the church will not come to the members' defense. As a result, he said, the personal conviction is not corporate responsibility. Taking that same trend of thought from Mr. Diop and those who have emboldened him, the other SDA, GC leaders, they're also implicated in this. That same trend of thought, that means when the National Sunday Law is enforced, it's a national law, international law. What's going to happen now when the members, the members say, we dissent? Will the GC leaders now say, we have to go along with it because it is a national and international law? Let's pause right there. Diop just said that there's no international law against inoculations. take that same trend of thought, apply it in America. Do you know the U.S. Supreme Court has stated that Sunday can be upheld as the law of the land, not only as a religious law, but also as a secular law, because it benefits the citizens in the area of health, protection from calamities. I've read that statement a plethora of times. You think about that. The third point I want to make. This statement is now public. Now, the leaders, the pagans in the world have all seen this and will see it in the near future. Watch carefully. They will say, hold on, GC leaders of SDA, you said once it's international law, you will go along with it, right? You said that. If it's international law, you will go along with it. Now, this is a Sunday worship, Sunday rest law. It's national, it's international. What will be your response? So the pagan leaders, those in the world, are going to hold the SDA GC leaders accountable for statements like this one. What will Diop and Wilson and others do at this time? Will they be like Herod in Mark chapter 6? For the oath's sake and for the sake of those around me, I'm going to behead John the Baptist? That's the question. And that's why, my friends, this statement from Isaiah 49 is so significant and applicable. Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget. That's it. Yet will I not forget thee, saith God. That's it, my friends. Amos chapter 5, verse 18, verse 19. The serpent is in the house. Isaiah 24, verse 17 to verse 18. The serpent is in the house. Sneer, pit. That's it, brothers and sisters. And remember, some are going to say at that point, the leaders are going to renege and take the right stance at the Sunday law time period. Oh no. Remember, volume 5, page 135 says, let none of us believe that a self-sacrificing, patriotic spirit will be developed in a moment because needed. Oh no. No, this spirit must be in our hearts daily and be infused in the minds of our children daily by precept and by example. Does it make sense? Your decision today will ultimately decide what your decision is going to be in a crisis. Let me fix that one up. We're told a crisis reveals character. The Sunday law crisis will reveal what your thought and thinking have already been. You go back and read Testimonies for the Church, volume 5, page 81, and the book Great Controversy, page 608. That was Diop. What will Ted Wilson's response be? Look at this, brothers and sisters. There it is on the screen. Did they use the so-called Ellen White writings to deceive and attempt to deceive members to take Babylon's panacea? Yes, they did. There it is. I've covered this before. Yes, they did. All right. Yes, they did. So what will they do at that Sunday law time period? That is the great question, brothers and sisters. That's the great question. Will they also quote and misinterpret, misapply another statement in the library of Ellen White, her volumes of writings and books, to say, since Ellen White said, when the Sunday law is enforced, you should hold, or church services can be held on Sunday. Would they also skew that statement to deceive members to worship on Sunday? There is a statement, friends. And since I've covered this before, won't spend time there. Red words underlined. One does not receive the mark of the beast because he shows that he realizes the wisdom of keeping the peace by refraining from work that gives offense. Red words underlined. Whenever it is possible, let religious services be held on Sunday. Watch out, brothers and sisters. It's coming. Do you know how I know it's coming? I'll give you a second witness. Sister White once wrote, church leaders are going to quote Romans 13. By the way, does Romans 13 mentions the principle we're dealing with here? In Romans 13 and verse number 1, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Do not resist the government. Read on down to verse number 3. She said this statement will be used, misapplied by pastors, professors, administrators to deceive people to accept Sunday worship by law. Question. Have many of the GC SDA leaders used Romans 13 in the attempt to force the conscience of their members to go and receive Babylon's magic bullet? The answer is yes, brothers and sisters. The answer is yes. That's the second witness. Okay, friends. Okay. We have come now to point number 10. To point number 10. And that's why we are told that they are a generation of vipers. As the first advent of Jesus, his professed church leaders, so in these last days, your house is left unto you desolate, you SDA, GC leaders, and NAD leaders, and even those in the Caribbean, Europe, Asia, Africa. No one is being spared. You are a generation of vipers. All right, friends. Now we have come to point number 10. Notice, afterward, just recently, I believe, 2 days ago, on Wednesday, the federal government, President Biden, actually now officially and publicly withdrew the Pestilence 19 mandate. There it is on the screen, friends. Look at the red arrows. Biden administration withdraws the Pestilence 19 inoculation mandate for businesses after losing Supreme Court case 2 days ago. That's it. 2 days ago. What about OHSA? Well, here is OHSA. 2 days ago as well. OHSA, red arrows, OHSA withdraws its workplace inoculation rule. With little chance to revive, OHSA withdraws Biden's workplace inoculation rule. So here comes a great question. What should SDA leaders do? Do you see the connection here, friends? What should the GC leaders do? That's number one. That was Biden's connection. Biden, GC leaders of SDA. Now we have OHSA. So what should the ADCOM group members publicly do now after posting that apostate publication regarding inoculation? What should they now do? Brothers and sisters, look at what they should not do. Look at the screen right here. Ohio Conference saying, red arrow, please know that the administration seeks to comply with Biden's order only out of compulsion. Should we go along with that? No, we should not. What should faithful SDA people do? That's the question, friends. There it is. What should we do? Now, what should we not do? Red arrow, Idaho. Should we bow to Babylon's policies, apostate polity, to receive funds and the conveniences of life? We dare not, brothers and sisters. So what should faithful SDA people do? That's the question. Pastor Vine, tell us again. Listen.
It's a fundamental point. Now, we all assume that they do have the authority because they made the statement, but I'm here to say to you today, after many years of working administration, the ADCOM does not have that delegated authority. Therefore, the statement is invalid. If those issuing the statement did not have the authority to issue the statement, which is the foundation of the entire church's position on vaccinations, this statement needs to be revoked.
So hold on. So my friends, here we have the Biden administration. OHSA can come publicly and recant in certain terms, apologize, renege, come off that high horse. So where are the leaders of the SDA Church? Where are the public apologies? And nothing to... What about those who were fired from SDA hospitals and healthcare facilities? How many had hypertension or it got worse because of what was coming down the sewage SDA pipeline? Where is the public recantation, the remorse, the godly compunction? Where is the protest, brothers and sisters? Let me wrap this up. So what are we to do? Again, we should follow the policy of God and not man. In Daniel chapter 1, I'll give you 4 texts, then close. Ready, friends? Okay. In chapter 1 of Daniel, we see a health policy that came down from Babylon. It had authority. However, Daniel, Ananiah, Mishael, Azariah said we ought to obey God rather than apostate leaders, even though that health policy had teeth, had authority. Teeth, if they did not go along. The leader of the Hebrews, the eunuch said, the leader of Babylon will behead me. All right. Daniel 3, that policy to enforce worship had authority. So much so, if it did not go along, you'd be thrown in the fiery furnace 7 times heated. But what said Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah? They refused to bow. We ought to obey God rather than men. The God whom we serve is able to deliver us. And even if he does not, King, we won't be careful to even say anything more. We shall not bow. We shall not serve nor worship what is unbiblical. But hold on. Were there only 4 Hebrews in Babylon? No. You had hundreds, yea, thousands, maybe thousands, tens of thousands of young people from Israel, Judah, down in Babylon. What happened? They bowed to the authority of Babylon. They didn't have the theme in their minds. We ought to obey God rather than men. Do you know why? They were bowing before that crisis, because a crisis reveals character. Let's go to what I've been quoting. Acts chapter 5. And what does the Bible say in verse number 29? Oh, we ought to obey God rather than men. And to whom was Peter speaking? Not just to civil leaders. He was speaking to the apostate church leaders before Acts chapter 7, when probation officially was closed on the Jewish church. It's Acts 5 we're talking about here. And verse 29. Let that sink in. And probation has not yet closed on the SDA movement as a movement. So what should we be saying to them? The words of Acts 5 verse 29. Look at the screen. That's it. It's the spirit of Protestantism, brothers and sisters. Blue words underlined. We must obey God rather than men. That's it. By the way, that's your scriptures and your quote. Now, let me close right here. I'm going to give you homework, okay? I'm going to give you homework. Write down these 4 or 5 scriptures, okay? The first one is Proverbs 29. And these scriptures have everything to do with authority. Proverbs 29, verse number 2 is the first one, which says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Mourn? You mean the time of Jacob's trouble? Mourn? Weeping, mourning? Wait a minute. What happens here? When the wicked beareth rule. Wicked where? In the state. Wicked where? Church leadership. Now, I can't spend much time here. Okay? The second scripture is Luke 20. You remember verse 1 through verse 8. Luke 20, verse 1 through verse 8. And what was the issue? Authority. This was the scene of the church leaders saying to Christ, who gave you this authority to be preaching and baptizing souls? Who gave you this authority? Who ordained you? Who gave you credentials? Who laid hands on you to pray over you? What conference do you belong to? What synagogue do you belong to? What school you attend? What's your degrees? Who gave you this authority to be teaching, preaching, and baptizing souls? Luke 20, verse 1 through verse 8. I wonder, what will these cynics say of Safe to Serve, Prophesy Again ministries, and a few other kindred ministries that are not under the control, authority, dictate of the SDA leadership? What would they say of us like tomorrow? When teaching will be done, preaching will be done, baptizing souls into presence with Bible religion will be done. I wonder, would they ask the question, who gave you this authority? When training is being done, the work of aggressive, effective evangelism is going forward, what would they ask? Well, it's the same question they asked of John the Baptist, like of Christ. Who gave you this authority? In John chapter 1, yes, John chapter 1, verse number 19 through verse number 29. Who gave you this authority? Go read that, friends. Okay, third scripture. Luke chapter 4 and verse 36. I won't read that one. It's powerful. The authority Christ has to deliver us from unclean spirit. You need to read that one. Pray over it. Meditate upon it. Luke chapter 9, verse 1 and verse 2. Last scripture, Mark chapter 13 and verse number 34. We have this authority, friends. Authority, victory. We have this authority. Now, where's Sister Henriquez? Sister Henriquez, where art thou? Beloved, let's close with this song. On the same theme, we ought to obey God rather than men. All right, friends, here comes the question. The song with rather. I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. Yes, friends, I'd rather have Jesus than riches untold. Again, pray for the preparation for service tomorrow on Sabbath. Come and join us if you're in the area, also virtually, and also keep in prayer the baptismal candidates. Tomorrow is going to be a high day in the sight of Christ. I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. Listen.